Hey, what's up guys, aarava here and welcome back to a brand new video here today where we're discussing once again the future of Formula 1 games, and today it's all about the story mode aspect of the game. You know, last year on F1 2021 it was the very first time we got a fully fleshed out story mode in the case of Breaking Point. So now I want to discuss in today's video, what could a sequel look like to Breaking Point? What could a future story mode look like in F1 2022? I'm actually in the opinion that we're not going to be getting a story mode on this year's F1 game, F1 2022. Because if you look at the pattern of what we've had the F2 story mode, which was a very small snippet, I will admit, but the F2 story mode in F1 2019. Then we had a break from a story mode. Then we had My Team, big change in career mode and for the F1 game. So, you know, we'll allow it. It was exciting enough to, you know, to obviously get us really interested in that game. F1 2021, you know, there were improvements made to My Team, but there wasn't an awe-inspiring, you know, massive change in My Team career mode, massive mechanical changes to the way the game actually worked. You know, it's still kind of very similar systems. There were just things added in that we could actually do, like the activity timeline, for example. You know, the big pull and the big, you know, headliner that they were advertising with was Breaking Point. You know, this all new story mode. You know, just think about the announcement trailer for last year's game. It started off as an announcement for Breaking Point. You know, that teaser, that epic teaser that I remember being so excited for. But with that pattern, unless, and I could be proven wrong, you know, now that EA fully have influence over Codemasters, last year's game, even with Breaking Point, that was all Codemasters. EA had no say on that. They bought them kind of halfway into that year's cycle. So EA, apart from the marketing part of it at the end of the game, when the game was coming out basically in July, that was, you know, obviously you had EA splattered all over it. But in terms of the development of that entire thing, that was nothing to do with EA. They had no influence. Whereas now, they'll be able to either support Codemasters a bit more financially or, you know, resources wise, or whatever support they need, they could potentially get from EA now. So I wouldn't put it past them that now there's going to be a big leap up in production and now we're able to get a story mode and what I hope is going to be an all changed kind of My Team career mode on this year's game. But I, for one, just looking at the pattern, think we won't actually get it. But let's see. But let's say, for example, we do get it this year, or even if we don't, if we get it for the following year, F1 2023, what does a story mode look like, you know, on the next time we get it? Is it going to be a one-for-one sequel to Breaking Point, or do we want to explore a new kind of story? Because we've already kind of, it wasn't an exact sequel to the F2 story, but we had a returning character from the F2 storyline in F1 2019, which was Devin Butler. Obviously a welcomed return of a character like that. And the end of Breaking Point, if you remember, kind of had some seeds in there for a sequel directly to Breaking Point. Whether it's going to be called Breaking Point 2 or something different and another pun and play on words, I don't know. But there were some little sprinkles that, you know, there could be a possibility to continue this little kind of story universe of Breaking Point and continue it for a part 2, essentially, in a new story mode. You know, Aiden Jackson, we haven't really dived into him. You know, we all thought Aiden Jackson was going to be the main character, and he wasn't. It was Casper Ackerman. He was the main character. It was all about him grappling with getting older, retiring, you know, handing over the ropes, helping Aiden, you know, pull himself together when he's had some self-doubt and whatnot, and obviously the two of them combining after being so, you know, closely, you know, as antagonists and not liking each other in the team, working together finally to defeat their rival, Devin Butler, in the other rival team, no matter what team you pick. But there was a part at the end which maybe allowed for a sequel to help us see a bit more of Aiden Jackson. Because for me, Aiden was a bit of a blander character compared to Casper Ackerman. And I think for good reason, it was to kind of put on the limelight onto Casper's character. But it meant Aiden was a bit two-dimensional, I felt, at the start of the game and even at the end, to be honest, as well. He got a little bit riled up, and I would like to see more of that. And if there is, you know, potential to write a bit more for this character and learn more about him, there's more depth depths and layer to him, I would like to explore it. You know, obviously, we know that Cody's took this very seriously. They got proper writers in. They outsource CGI cutscenes. So now, with EA's influence of maybe them saying, let's double down on this, because clearly it was a good way to market the game. It got us so excited, and from my perspective, I could see obviously there were a lot of casuals that really enjoyed it. Even those of us who just enjoy a bit of story involved with Formula 1, I think we all enjoyed it. Obviously, the hardcore, you know, like league races and whatnot, maybe didn't play it. I've saw even a few creators, just wasn't to their fancy. You know, some people just don't like a story kind of aspect in a sports game, whereas for me personally, I've always loved single player games. You know, that's my bread and butter away from any of this gaming stuff I do on YouTube. When I have the time to game, I mostly play single player games because I love stories. Just like when I watch a movie, I like to be, you know, lost in an alternate world, basically, when it comes to playing a game. So for me, having the two connected together is awesome. Obviously, I already try and do that myself. I already try and make a bit of a story, you know, where seasons connect together, and, you know, even though it's determined by the AI, you know, what the AI teams do, I try and, you know, obviously you guys know, if you watch my Team Career Mode videos, you'll know that I try my best to incorporate what the AI are doing and just kind of have it be part of the story and kind of create this alternate universe that you can watch for a game cycle, and then we reset it and we go again for the next game. So I love it. So I loved seeing a story mode like this, and, you know, on the build up to the game being released, there's no doubt about it, the trailers that were possible because of Breaking Point and such were way more exciting. It's so much easier to make exciting trailers and, you know, exciting marketing about story modes versus just a career mode. Obviously, a career mode can get you excited. You know, case in point, 2020, learning about all the features, that's sick. So on this year's game, I'm hoping with the full next-gen EA influence, we're going to get a big change in My Team Career Mode, and that will be very exciting to learn about. But there's no doubt that those teaser trailers about the story mode were equally exciting as well. So I think there is scope to do that, and the reason why I say that is because also at the end of Breaking Point, this is going back to the original point I was starting to make before I went off on a tangent, is there was that cutscene at the end where, depending on the team you picked, he, you know, for me, I think it was Mattia Binotto. I think obviously for others it was Christian Horner, might have been Toto Wolff, I don't know. But on the podium in that last cutscene, there's that thumbs up and wink because we know Aiden has been touted to go to the higher team, and, you know, that was part of this, you know, kind of the story of Casper wanting to help him out. You know, make sure, you know, you're going to be on your way there to getting there. So we could explore that. We could explore him. I'm thinking, you know, the Breaking Point was all about Casper grappling with getting older and, you know, teaching a youngster coming into Formula 1. Now, especially after the season we've just had in real-life Formula 1 with 2021, with the titanic battle between two big names, how about we explore Aiden, kind of that Leclerc-style sort of story, being chucked into a top team, and he has to sink or swim, he has to do well. Again, could be, you know, we've already kind of done it, ruffling the old feathers, kind of the Leclerc v Vettel thing. We kind of already had that with Casper. So this would be maybe more about almost like a, you know, just a solidifying, coming of age, almost like a Verstappen story of, you know, you're not ruffling any feathers, you become the top guy, and it's about you learning what it means to be in a championship fight, you know, the politics, the mental game, just the digging deep over the course of the season, adversities, penalties, controversies, whatnot, paddock tension, all of that. You know, I think it would be really sick to explore that in a story mode. With Aiden, it would be nice to follow on. If not, I think, you know, as I said, Aiden was a bit of a 2D character in some aspects, so I wouldn't be, you know, I wouldn't be upset if it was just a completely new storyline. That would be calm. But I think they've potentially put the seeds there. I think that cutscene and the way they set that up at the end with Aiden, you know, going to a top team, I think they were maybe thinking about setting up a sequel, a part 2, Breaking Point part 2, or, you know, like I said, a very new pun on some other aspect of Formula 1, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out if my hunch is correct, or they're just going to do something completely different. But in terms of talking about when we might get the story mode as well, like I said, I don't think we're going to get it this next year, but I could be proven wrong. Cody's have talked about in the past, Lee Mathers talked about, in F1 F1 2020, they had a second team developing Breaking Point. So there's no, so that kind of maybe proves that if there is if EA actually back Cody's maybe with some budget or resources or whatever they need, maybe they're able to, have two teams working on one game, as it were, kind of almost like you have one side working on my team and then this whole other team working on a story mode to put it into the same game, or they might just go with the tact of you go off and you're the main team that makes the next iteration of my team for F1 2022 with hopefully big improvements, and this other team is working in the background, not as quickly, not as fast paced, but they're working slowly at putting all the foundations in for the story mode to then put it into the 2023 game. It could go kind of both ways. EA being there is definitely a difference. I think if EA wasn't there, I would have said definitely there's no story mode in this year's game. But now we could be proven wrong, because I think EA would look at the success of Breaking Point, the way the reaction was to it, especially for the casual fans, which I'm sure EA is massively into. Like, I'm sure EA is looking at that thinking, okay, real life Formula 1 is trying to get as much casuals in, and that's growing the sport. If we get as many casuals into the F1 game, that's going to grow the game as well. And ultimately, for obviously EA and Codemasters, grow their revenues, which obviously as companies they care about. So I think it's going to be interesting. I do kind of would like a story mode on this year's game. It'd be cool. I do have a hunch that maybe we won't see it. But if it is, yeah, I think there's possibilities to explore Aiden Jackson more. Let me know what you guys think, though, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was being too harsh on that character and the story, on that story aspect. Do you guys think there's a lot to look at there? Or are you on the opposite side? Do you want to see something completely new? You didn't really like the vibe of that story mode. You want to see something different? And just actually, any of your guys' ideas, what do you maybe think would be cool to dive into in terms of a new Formula 1 story mode? Like, what aspect of the sport haven't we had in Breaking Point yet that could be interesting to look into with that? Also, with that as well, I would love the story mode to maybe dabble in going into the past of Formula 1, like in the form of maybe flashbacks. Maybe Aiden talks to, older drivers to get wisdom, and then we get taken into a scenario where we have to drive as one of the older drivers in a flashback scene or something like that, and you get to drive an old car. Obviously the licensing would have to be all signed off for the F1 game, but how cool would that be? I think there's a lot of scope, there's a lot of untapped potential with story modes in Formula 1. There's a lot of different scenarios we've seen in the past that they could kind of redo in a modern twist take, but I'm excited by it. I actually, the other day, this is why I wanted to make this video, because I remembered, we had a story mode. It's kind of easy for me to forget because I'm now 70 episodes into my team career mode, but I kind of forget that we had a story mode that I did a 7 or 8 episode series on, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed narrating the part I need to narrate, and then played it, and I think you guys, from what I remember, really enjoyed that kind of that style of editing that I was doing in that video, where I was kind of almost like a narrator for the bits where I could narrate. Then you had the cutscenes in full, just showing you it shutting up, and then doing the racing part where I was kind of almost being like a commentator and kind of trying to flesh out the story from my side and play with the story mode, play with the narrative we've been given, and try and kind of complement it in the way I was doing it in the video. I really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to the story mode on a future Formula 1 game. When we get it, I don't know, and what's going to be in it is up in the air. But I think there's seeds of maybe a sequel to Breaking Point. That's my hunch, that we're going to get a sequel to Breaking Point with Aiden Jackson returning, maybe even with a Devin Butler returning, because he was such a polarizing character that why wouldn't you want to bring him back? Because everyone loves to hate Devin Butler as a character, and so I think that would be great to continue that, but then flesh that out even more, make him even more of a dick or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's so exciting to think about, because unlike a career mode and stuff, story mode, you could have anything. You could literally have anything. So let me know, guys, in the comments below. What would you like to see in a sequel or a part 2 or just a new story mode in the F1 games? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. Having enjoyed this video and thinking about the story mode and whatnot, then hit that like button. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.